So, Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters. Hey. What should we talk about?
Is it fun and casual, or is it neither?
It's
today.
It's fun and dramatic.
Dramatic.
Yeah.
That's what people want
in
their entertainment is fun and drama.
All right, well, we're going to have that. That's
comedies, drama, all of the above.
Cotton Bowl? No, probably not. Missouri? Who cares?
I don't know. Drinkwitz threw some drama out there.
I kind of like that coach. Yeah, getting on there. Hold on, guys.
Hold on.
I got someone beeping in.
When you say beeping in, that basically tells someone I'm over 40
How
years
old you are.
I'm over 40 years old.
Nobody knows what that means.
I think he ruined his cachet as like a younger head coach.
What do you mean beeping in?
I got call waiting. I guess they still have call waiting on iPhones. I don't know.
Yeah, but no one says beeping in. I got another call because it used to beep, and now you can actually look and see who it is.
Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. We are at Roosters. It is a fun, casual joint.
Is it casual now? Or is it a casual conversation now?
The conversation probably won't be.
Was the money on the nightstand casual?
Ooh, that's a case-by-case basis, Bob.
Okay, well, start digging in.
Ohio State's going to need a new starting quarterback. Kyle McCord is in the portal. Jay-Z, what are your thoughts?
I couldn't believe it this morning. He just kind of, 11-1 as a starter, 3,000 yards, 24 TDs, 6 INTs. Seemingly had a decent year as a first-time starter.
Good numbers.
Numbers can be misleading. We all watch the games. We all know there were times where it did look like, what the heck's going on here?
Second team, Big Ten, third team.
Third team.
But he always kind of found his way and got better in the second half, and it was just like a weekly thing. I did not think the season went to a point where we wouldn't have a starting quarterback going into a bowl game. I don't understand. I saw Ryan yesterday talk about how it was just going to be an open competition. At that point in time, I was like,
so that's a long ways away.
And I'm just
everything's up. Everything.
Just like, man, like good on you letting your starting quarterback or letting the guy who started for you this season know.
I'm sure he let her know that a few days ago.
Well, fair enough. But you're doing it out in public now. You're coming out and saying it. We're gonna have an open competition. Yeah. So.
And Ryan Day knew he was going to be asked that on Sunday, okay? Yeah. So, it's not like he went into that and got shell-shocked and be like, oh, I can't believe I'm being asked this question. They are not paying attention to everything that gets said in the media, but they know generally the vibe with which they're going to be approached on a press conference like that. That conversation happened, obviously, a few days ago where it's, hey, we can't commit to this long-term because this wasn't right this season. Now, doesn't mean it was all on Kyle McCord, of course, and it doesn't mean that it wasn't on Kyle McCord in some ways because clearly his inconsistency through the year was an issue that we talked about here all the time, and any other media outlet in the country that's talking about Ohio State football was like, the quarterback play is up and down. There's no guarantee that the quarterback play goes up from here, and I think that's an important thing for people to understand.
What do you mean? When you say, fire the coach, you don't always get a better one?
That's right.
Yeah,
you don't.
Is there not always better options out there?
Sometimes if you look across at your neighbor's yard,
does it look greener sometimes?
It may sometimes seem greener, but if you get a closer inspection, it may not be. It might be paint.
It might be. It might be field turf.
You never know.
That's the problem. You don't know what happens from here. There is a inherent risk in moving on from a 3-year quarterback who's going to be a fourth-year starter, fourth-year guy who's starting for the second season. There's a lot of things that you have just put back on the reset button for Ohio State.
Well, we kept saying, hey, more experience,
better offensive line.
You would think everything would be a little bit better going into next season.
You would think, but
now
not so much.
Wild West.
And there's something in there, Berm. You said Ohio State moving on. This is not.
No, it's not a one-sided conversation.
Yeah, and they're both involved in this. I don't think you can actually call it a mutual decision. But if Ryan Day is saying not fully committed, going to have an open competition to go into 2024, and you're Kyle McCord, Bob, and he's like, well, I'm 12-1 as a starter.
Got a lot of good film.
Yeah, I could make a lot of money in the portal.
Yeah, that's.
And if I'm not appreciated here,
Matt Rule told us that
1.5 to $2 million for a new quarterback. Are we going to drop that for a new quarterback next year? That's what I want to know.
I'm guessing if we get someone of substance out of the portal, that would be
going to have to
be table stakes. Matt Rule didn't throw that number out there
for no reason,
willy nilly.
He's letting his people know this is what's going to take to get us a good quarterback.
This is what it's going to take. And by the way, I've polled the audience. This is what it's looking like.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them are bluffing, and they really are only holding a pair of threes. But it seems like they've kind of went all in, and this is
especially considering Nebraska went portal last year for the quarterback, and it did not go well.
Yes.
So I think that was definitely Matt Rule going, if you
This-
want better, you're going to have to.
It's also why you see the quarterbacks attached to Nebraska being not Riley Leonard and not Cam Ward. And
Well, you think about that. I just saw Dylan Gabriel got in the portal. Dylan Gabriel played
Yeah,
pretty
but-
well.
he weirdly already had 3 suitors for his
Mississippi,
services.
USC,
But
and
this is because of NIL, because the money that Jackson Arnold, the backup quarterback at Oklahoma, is being needed, or that he needs to stay in their program,
Allocated, Burn.
needed for Jackson Arnold.
Signing cap.
You given him too much to have him not be the starter heading into year 2. So now Dylan Gabriel has no choice.
So it's a
but
little
crazy.
bit. It's a little bit like the NFL. I mean,
a
you've
little
got-
bit,
you've got
yeah.
too
We're
much-
paying him too much.
except
We got to
without
get him on the field.
agents or
my-
tampering rules.
No, there are
or
agents. They're
not
advised-
certified
advisors.
not certified legal agents, not
advisors.
tampering rules, etc. It's just such a disaster what has been created, and that's all. That's
That's
a
college football.
totally different conversation. We're talking about
That's
Kyle
for the
McCord
summer.
and Ohio
That's for the
State, right?
summer.
So the question is, where do they go? And this is a 2-part answer, because you start thinking about Missouri and the Cotton Bowl, and what you do for that game is not necessarily the way you approach things heading into spring, because you are going to have Aaron Noland on the roster in January. So at the worst,
I'm not a fan
the
of the true
worst-
freshman.
no. But
starter.
at the worst case, you're going to go into spring with Devin Brown, Lincoln Kienholz, and Aaron Noland competing.
How is that
for-
the
Yeah, that
worst
might
case?
be best case scenario.
I think it could be one.
If you bring it, yeah, I mean, I think that might be
I
best
think
case.
in the big picture of winning games next year, maybe the best case is finding a quarterback who's played a lot of football and can come in and run the offense and be a 1-year rental so that the other guys can continue to develop.
I agree.
The problem with that is that if you do that, if it's known that you're searching for
You rent it rather than buy it.
correct. But you can rent it.
That's
and
where we
still,
go back to that money on the nightstand, Burr.
but you can still lose one of or more of the guys that are in your
one
current room.
or more.
So you're going to go out and get somebody who played last year, and hopefully they had a good record, because that means they played well. Maybe like an 11-1 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And you're
11-1,
gonna-
that's
what is that
not
too? Is that
realistic.
too good?
Not realistic.
Most of
finding
those
an
guys
11-1
aren't
starter
in the portal.
core.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
What about Arch-
most of those guys
Arch
don't
Manning?
leave their university after they just went 11-1?
There's no conversation that, from what I understand, there's no entertaining a conversation for a guy that's going to come in with 2 or 3 years to play. Because you do that, you were telling
Yeah.
you were
You
telling
got
Lincoln
one
and
guy in the
Arnold.
quarterback room.
Then you wind up with one guy.
You got
telling-
Corey Dennis and this kid in the
you're
quarterback
telling
room. That's
Devin,
it.
you're telling well
maybe
maybe
not.
Well,
you're telling Devin Brown,
Maybe not that.
that's a whole nother
you're
thing.
telling Devin Brown, Lincoln Kienholz, and Aaron Noland to move on. And if one of the conversations Austin and Bill had on Sunday was Ryan Day and his sometimes refusal to acknowledge that maybe he did a misstep, right?
Well, this is not that. This
If you take a freshman quarterback like Dante Moore, you are throwing away 1, 2, 3, 4 cycles of quarterback recruiting.
But what if Dante Moore's really good?
But what if he completed 54% of his passes and had 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions? as a
I bet the fans would love
There's
it.
a lot
What
of
if he
potential.
played for Ryan Day's best friend and he has a pretty good idea about whether or not he's
I
actually?
thought everybody told me Chip was getting fired at UCLA.
that's what UCLA said.
I'll tell you what.
Changed their mind last Monday.
He throws a pretty ball.
wonder why.
He's a very good passer. The problem is you have 1 year to develop him, where you would have no backups behind him. That you'd have to go out and get another Tristan Gebbia or Gunnar Hoke or someone like that. And then you have 1 year, and then he gets another year, and then he's gone. So what is the value of that? You are not going to wipe away 4 years of quarterback recruiting, because you've already thrown out the 2021 class with Kyle McCord leaving. Then you throw out the 2022
Twin
class
years.
with Devin Brown
Twin
leaving.
years leaving.
Then you throw out the 2023 class with Lincoln Kienholz leaving, and the 2024 class by telling Aaron Noland you're not going to have a chance to start here for 3 years. None of those guys are staying. So now you're down to one quarterback, and it's a guy that completed 54% of his passes and threw 9 interceptions to 11 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But the fans will be excited when he signs here.
This is the problem. The fundamental problem is that people don't understand what you're asking for. And if the expectation, and this is something we talked about before we started, Kyle McCord's numbers, and I understand fully that he was inconsistent throughout this season. Prior to Dwayne Haskins' arrival at Ohio State in 2018, and that season he had in 2018.
Kyle would have been the best quarterback.
This
Yeah.
season,
Years.
this season that Kyle
Years.
McCord had would
Give me
be
a break.
maybe the second best
people.
quarterback season of all time,
Yeah.
behind Troy Smith in 2006.
That's 100% accurate.
So the standard is the standard line, which is
The standard
BS.
was elevated, though.
It's elevated to a point that is unreachable every
I don't
year.
know.
You cannot hit it every year.
Why not?
You
That's,
cannot
that's
have
not what she said.
But there's nobody really in college, even in general. Let's forget about just in the portal. There was nobody in college football that had Dwayne, Justin Fields,
Yes.
and CJ Stroud numbers this year. Like, period.
Kyle McCord's QBR, which is a skewed stat because it's based on
It's all these numbers are skewed. You can use them however
was
you
higher
want,
than
but-
Caleb Williams. I mean,
Caleb Williams fumbled a lot.
Yeah, well, that doesn't include in the QBR, does it?
Yeah, I think so.
Whatever.
Turnover worthy.
I'm saying now nobody in their right mind would say I'd rather have Kyle McCord than Caleb Williams this year. But if
Caleb
you look,
Williams probably would have rather been on this team than
Probably.
Yeah.
but if you look at just sheer numbers and you look
Well, he
at the
wouldn't be driving a
metrics,
Ferrari.
like Kyle McCord's year was significantly better metrics wise than eye test wise.
Yeah.
And so that's where it gets confusing. But I've seen all day on Monday
Florida
morning,
State's year was maybe better metrics wise
Yeah.
than
then the
eye
eye
test
test.
wise, but
I've seen Ohio State
What good
fans
did that
all-
do for 'em?
I've seen Ohio State fans all morning who the same people who were clamoring for Devin Brown to
I
play
know.
all year
It's the irony of all ironies.
now saying Ohio State needs to pass Devin Brown and Lincoln Keenholz and bring in someone else. So like
What a surprise.
when will you ever be happy?
When you win a national championship.
Will you?
For a short period of time until the next year comes, and then they're all going to be miserable.
Because then those quarterbacks sucked the next year, remember?
I'm with you.
They weren't good
I know
enough.
how it goes.
I get it.
Bench Cardale Jones, bench JT Barrett, bench Cardale Jones
Bench
again.
them all.
It's Braxton.
It's
Braxton,
never good enough.
Well, and that's why we love Ohio State. The passion,
I think it's
the
actually
excitement.
Did you Kyle McCord in his
The drama.
in his Twitter statement? He posted a graphic, announcing his intentions, and it said, "Ohio State fans, your passion is what makes playing in Columbus great." And
And it is.
look, man,
What are you trying to say? Make college football great again?
I think that the decision here is something that will benefit both sides long term. I don't believe, after watching what has happened to Kyle McCord this year, that mentally he would be able to handle another season at Ohio State. And I'm people out there, oh, he's soft, whatever. No, that's not true. Like what he's been, the way he's been attacked this year is unbelievable. But Ohio State can do better at quarterback than the play they got this year. So now the question is, how much of this falls on Ryan Day to have an option, and that's going to be better. And this is Ryan Day knows if he doesn't beat Michigan next year, none of this is mattering anyway. He won't be at Ohio State after next season if he doesn't beat Michigan in November. So what happens from here to now? Like everything is much heavier weighted than it was a month ago.
Well, it shouldn't be because we got rid of our problem.
Exactly.
Everything should be better now.
Let me ask you this.
What are we doing?
What the other guys getting in the portal that expected? Everyone else that got in there, Brown and Turner.
Yeah,
A lot of
Kai
secondary
Stokes.
guys.
I mean,
Kai Stokes
a lot
was
of
kind of
DBs.
the guy 2 years.
He had
We're
one of the
thin.
best
It's-
springs of
Yeah,
anybody.
spring ball
at
looked
Ohio
like this
State.
kid was
we're
going to be a
thin. It's
player.
he had a Bam Childress spring for sure. But you are thin, but it's a position where I think the Buckeyes, if they're being honest, which the coaches there do try to be honest, probably told Kai Stokes, we're going to go out and find someone else. And safety,
Jahad Carter.
I mean,
They already did that and didn't work out last year.
so I think there's
He had
actually
a quad contusion.
we're going to jump all over the place here as far as the conversation, but the idea that Ryan Turner and Jair Brown are leaving should actually provide us a little bit of a silver lining
Think
for Ohio
that
State
means
fans
Jordan's
because it
coming
means
back?
Jordan Hancock very likely is returning.
That would be good. That would be big. You put
That'd be
Jordan
nice.
and
And Jermaine
Davidson,
Matthews
and
and
Jermaine Pitbull Matthews, Jermaine Dupree Matthews, where the party at. Like, I like that. I like that crew there. Hopefully, this is what I looked at.
The other part of that, Bob, is like this number had to be that large because Ohio State was like half a dozen over the scholarship.
Those numbers
So-
aren't real anymore.
They are.
No,
You
they're
can have
getting
as
back
many
to real now,
You know
right?
why? Because you don't need to have your 85 scholarships. You just pay guys. And they just pay their
Yeah, hey,
tuition.
we're gonna take care of your tuition. You're not a walk on.
there's no such thing as
Preferred.
eligibility anymore.
I understand that
That's what I'm saying with
there
Dylan
are no
Gabriel. Like,
rules, but
what are we doing?
you had to have players leave if you were going to make moves coming in. Like that was a mandatory situation. For
Dylan
Ohio State.
Gabriel's played 5 seasons of college football. This is his second team, and he's transferring to a third team for his 6th year of college football.
Of course,
When does eligibility run out?
it doesn't.
Like it's
When the teams don't want you anymore, and then you're not good enough to
You
go to the
play well enough
NFL.
to go to the NFL.
It's so dumb.
And then they tell you you're too old. Actually, we're going to go with someone
But
younger.
COVID, sir, you are 28
Well, that's
years
the-
old.
that's-
You have to leave.
That's the worst part. The NFL's like, we thought we see you versus a guy who's 20. We're going to take the 20-year-old. College football's like, well, we see you versus a guy who's 24. We're going to take the
Because
24-year-old.
experience matters.
Yeah,
It
except
helps
in the
a
NFL.
ton. Well, because then you get to the point where you start breaking down. Quarterback's a little bit different.
We've blurred the lines.
What's his name? Towns.
Seth Towns.
Seth Towns is playing the 9th year.
Well, Oregon's tight end that had the one-handed touchdown on Friday night is coming back for his 9th season at Oregon next year.
Is it really his 9th?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Bo Nix is what, 6 or 7, right?
I mean, I hope that he's got
60
multiple
games.
degrees, a lot of stuff.
You would think. It'd be
I
like
mean-
Stetson Bennett, who didn't even graduate. He was
That's-
he was in college for like
I
6
mean,
years.
my brother was at
Seven.
OU for 6 years. He got medicaled and
Most of those
everything.
people
But he
are
actually
doctors.
graduated with a undergrad master's, half of another. I was like, okay, dude, you utilized your time well there. On other things though, like I've heard some positive news where some guys
We're not allowing positive news.
It's all doomsday today.
Hold on. I heard this kind of going into the weekend where you mentioned Jordan Hancock, potentially, I think a lot of people thought JT Tuimoloau was gone. Maybe he returns. Cody Simon, who ran on senior day, I was like, man, you come back. You guy, I think he might be returning, which like those are experienced guys who are good, especially at positions where you need depth and you could be a little thin. I feel like maybe defensively they'll be a little healthier now than what they would have been otherwise.
Yeah, there's not all of the draft advisory board feedback is in, but some of the preliminary conversations for Ohio State and a lot of these people that we projected in August are definitely
top 10. We had 11 top 10 picks.
Six guys in the top 32. Like it is. Here's the annual reminder. It is really, really hard to be a first-round draft pick.
Well, here's the other annual reminder.
What do you know about that?
The only people that
I don't know that anybody knows anything about
that. The only people that, and I tell guys this all the time, the only people that their opinions matter are the ones that hold the picks.
Are going to do that.
Not none of the other people. Like, how many guys does Mel Kiper draft? Zero.
John Gruden and Mike Mayock are no longer in the NFL, so the Buckeyes in the first round are dropping. Period.
And I would add to this conversation that they have started giving better, more accurate feedback. It used to be when they'd go 1 through 7, you'd get like 80 players were getting first-round grades. Well, guess what? There aren't 80 spots in the first round. What? You'd have 75 guys getting second-round grades. Well, guess what? There's only that. Now you're at 150
They should
people
give
for
about
60
20 guys a first-round grade.
And so that's what they've started doing. They've done a better job of it, that they say basically like first, second, or go back to school.
Like they told my thing was like somewhere between probably 20 and 40. That was my senior year, obviously, coming out. But it's like, well, people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, probably not going to go in the first half of the first round, probably second half of the first round, or top of the second, like maybe sliding a little lower. Like that's the reality of it. I mean, you can't like, oh yeah, you said, oh, we love them. Yeah, but are you going to pick them?
Yep.
And you can like them, but do you actually need them, or will you take them?
And the way that it seems from people that I've talked to inside the Woody about what is going on with this feedback, Marv is here. There's absolutely no question about that. Denzel maybe right here. And then virtually everybody else, including great players like JT.
Julian Fleming just announced he's going to the portal as well.
Okay. Well, that's more news. Why would he go in the portal? What a strange choice there. Anyway, so count that as another guy coming back?
No.
Well, I mean, if you're going to
so.
use that extra year, I don't know why you wouldn't just use it at Ohio State. But anyway.
Yeah. Doesn't know he's throwing the ball next year, so
the point was,
go find out.
And Julian was not in this NFL conversation, but even guys who are very good very, very good college players, or had strong second half of the years, like JT and Jack, a Cody Simon, I mean, Jordan Hancock,
and Reed Carrico.
They're still not getting first round feedback, and if you don't get that, the opportunity, Ohio State does still a very good job with NIL for the current roster, and there's got to be at some point, I think, some investment in that brotherhood to get things fixed and to beat Michigan and to win a Big Ten championship, which the 2021 class has not done. And I think that's the other fascinating part of this December with the decisions for these guys. They don't have to do that, but I think it would be another negative storyline for this program if nobody decides to do what a handful of guys for Michigan did 2 years ago in 2021 to come back to actually flip it.
You look, I mean, historically at Ohio State, that's happened a handful of times. We had some of the guys in my class came back. AJ came back.
Mike Doss came back,
led to a national championship. You'll look 4 years later, James Laurinaitis, Malcolm Jenkins, those guys come back. And when you come back, it doesn't always guarantee
No.
The success. And you look at some of the guys that chose to come back this year. But I'm like, you were right there. You had it all in front of you. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. But that was positive and encouraging to see that. Julian Fleming, that was a little interesting to kind of see that happen there.
I think this is a byproduct of losing your starting quarterback. Now, if you're you're going to be a fifth-year wide receiver coming back next year. I'm sorry, fourth. No, 2022. Fifth year for Julian if he was to return. You're now not sure about who your quarterback's going to be. You got the ball thrown to you 24 times or something this year. Despite the fact that I know that there was an attempt by the Ohio State staff to get him the ball more often, it didn't happen.
He did a good job when he got the ball. I mean, he's got a good film.
He didn't score a touchdown his senior season at Ohio State. Like, that's a tough tough road to hoe. And then, like I said, you now don't know who your quarterback's going to be. It's the other option is, do you take a shot at the NFL, or do you go somewhere where you can be the future wide receiver and have a shot? He's not going to be the future wide receiver at Ohio State next year with Carnell Tate and potentially Jeremiah Smith. So it sucks because this is the problem with college football now. Like, you don't have leaders that stick around. There are guys who have opportunities and they're going to go get them. Ohio State, if you're the Buckeyes and you have an NIL decision to make between Jeremiah Smith and Julian Fleming, where's that going?
Yeah. Wait, are we going to get Jeremiah Smith?
I mean, he's still committed to Ohio State. There's certainly a wide open room for him to play.
Where is the berm crystal ball at on that?
He's still committed to Ohio State.
What is this? That's like you're setting up.
He has no reason to
you
stay
sound
committed.
like you sound like Bobby Petrino. I'm the coach. I'm the coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
He's committed to Ohio State, and nothing has changed for his future at Ohio State. Brian Hartline's still there. Ryan Day's still there. I don't think that.
Yeah, hasn't he said as long as those two are there, he's going to be?
I mean, yeah, but kids say dumb shit all the time.
But
the point is, I don't.
Deion said they don't. Leave
you
you.
know,
They leave your girlfriend.
What I'm saying is that I think that there was actually, bizarrely, in the Jeremiah Smith conversation, people who were holding Kyle McCord against him and saying, "Oh, that's going to be your quarterback. That's you." So it's all lost in the wash, one way or the other.
You know what's not?
I need a nap.
Yeah, this is not
Maybe
good.
a cigarette.
The sport is.
Or I just need
poor.
some.
I need some of these.
We're going
delicious
to refuel right now with onion feathers.
onion feathers in the pluck you sauce. It's my favorite. So delicious. Delicious, crispy, golden
$3.
onion
When do you get those, Bob?
petals.
$3 when?
$3 on Appetizer Thursday, which also translates in English to Appetizer Tuesday. So right there, everywhere, sauce is great. It's got some horseradish in it.
I always
Get
forget
your
the
nose
sauce
going.
name. The Boom Boom sauce or
No,
Well, the pluck you sauce. Pluck you sauce.
Officially, it's supposed to be feather sauce, I believe, but I don't like that as much as plucking sauce. Right?
I agree. I think the plucking.
It's got to be done.
We should do some work there.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're also going to buy some Roosters gift cards during the break.
Because if you get $50 in Roosters gift cards, you get a $10 Roosters buck for you.
You get to give and receive at the same time.
That you
It's like
can't
the
use-
Lucky Pierre.
You can't use until after
Well,
January.
you can't. Yes.
You
got a
still
month.
get
Come
to
on.
use them.
You treat yourself in the new
Until
year
after
with
January
your
1st.
$10.
It's a wonderful stocking stuffer, and you got to start thinking about that right now.
It's
It's
important
December.
to tell people the fine print.
You're right about that. All right, we're going to take a break. We are at Roosters. We're in the Horseshoe Lounge. It is a fun, casual joint. We'll be right back.
There's nothing like the holidays, and we at Roosters have been busy preparing for the season. So grab Grandma, all the cousins, and that one really goofy uncle, and let us host you for the holidays. We'll do the cooking and cleaning, and we'll even help you with the shopping. For every $50 in Roosters gift cards you purchase, you'll receive a $10 Roosters buck. What's better than giving and receiving? Roosters, your fun, casual holiday joint.
All right, welcome back into the Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters. It is going to be fun and casual in this joint moving forward. So Sunday, my question to Ryan Day, because I think that this is obvious. Let's set aside the actual roster management. That's going to be a nonstop conversation until the portal window closes and then probably beyond that. Because the window is open, because National Signing Day is in what, Berm, 16 days? And
14 days.
Coaches can be on the
18 to
road.
20th.
I personally thought, hey, if Ryan Day, if you are interested in thinking about making a coaching change, wouldn't it be prudent to do that now? You're not playing for a college football playoff championship. You need to send coaches on the road. There seems to be one move that I think all of us can pretty much agree on, which is Parker Fleming being removed as special teams coordinator.
Don't be lumping me in with everybody.
You're
else.
out. You're not in on that.
I'm not firing anybody.
You're not firing anybody.
Well, I don't
I'll
think
let
it's
someone else
I don't think it's a
fire
thing
him.
of firing. It's a thing of making room for somebody that we
For James
really
Lerner.
want to keep on
Listen,
staff.
I
right?
think James.
I think that's what it's comes.
I think
it's a numbers game.
I feel like James wants to be here. I feel like there will be the opportunity for him to be here.
All right, I will not include you in this, Bob. You're not firing. You're not.
I'm not saying that
You don't ever want
there
call
might
for
not
it.
might
I understand.
A change has to be made. And so
But I think that's the more.
I don't want to put you in a
special
in a
teams
spot
were
you don't
not
wanna
as
be.
good as you would have liked them to have been this year.
and
or
you-
for
That
the
is
previous two games in a year ago, the ones that were the most important.
some would say.
So
So kind of looked.
I'll just say it right here. I think it's the most obvious move. It's one that can be made with very little discomfort. There are enough quality control and analysts and
You don't
full-time
lose
coaches.
anything on the recruiting trail. You don't risk like upsetting, pissing off players that are coming to
So
play
that's
for that
the
guy.
simple. What's okay? So you're going to put that as 1A easiest move in your mind to make. You do a straight 1-for-1 swap, laryngitis for a phlegm.
And you let Keenan Bailey absorb the special teams coordinator title.
Yeah, which he worked on under Urban Meyer with him.
And so I think that's 1A. 1B, if we're talking about the first half of the show and the opportunities in the portal and everywhere else and recruiting and managing that position moving forward, Corey Dennis's contract is expired. We just went through this with Parker Fleming a year ago. I would think
do we make Kyle McCord the quarterback's coach?
He's got to be in the conversation. But, I mean, there are former Buckeyes that I think could be in that conversation, like Kenny Guyton and JT
What about
Barrett.
Joe Thomas Barrett the fourth?
I would say I'm probably higher on Kenny Guyton on that pecking order, at least for me, because of his experience at multiple stops at the college level. This year, he actually called plays for an SEC coordinator there. It's a pretty big deal. He played at the position at Ohio State. If you want someone invested in the program.
Wouldn't you like him to have another year to learn with the tutelage of Bobby Petrino?
No, I think you need to get
as
out
a
of
player, both as a coach and as a man.
I think
get him out of there before
probably
Bobby comes
better.
Teach him how to ride a motorcycle.
So the opportunity is there. Kenny Guyton would be available. I don't know what'll happen. I love JT Barrett. Maybe both of them could do that. He is just.
They can both come. I like that.
How about that? I don't know.
There are ways to get analysts into the building, right? I mean,
yeah, you just say we're going to hire him as an analyst.
Anyway, I think that waiting until after the bowl game, with as early as the coaching carousel spins, I think is probably, and with all the other things going on in December, I think waiting on that doesn't seem ideal to me.
The thing is, if you did go after JT, that would be a timeline issue.
Not Kenny.
But not for Kenny.
Yes, I understand because JT, they're
again. That's why JT. If you're looking to bring him along into the program in an analyst role or as the assistant QB coach after February when the Lions win the Super Bowl, then that's fine.
Oh, snuck in a bold P there.
Why not?
I love it.
Here's the
once they beat the Bengals.
Here's the reality. What you have to deal with Ryan Day has been the quarterback's coach for the starting quarterback for the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
I wonder how much of the lack of development for Kyle McCord heading into this season, because I don't think he was ready when this season started, period, is the fact that Ryan Day had not been really working with him the last 2 years. And so now you head into the next 3 weeks of preparing Devin Brown and Lincoln Kienholz for what I would assume will be split reps in the Cotton Bowl. You let Ryan Day work with those guys. You let Ryan Day and Todd Fitch work with those guys over the next 3 weeks. You don't, and this is going to sound harsh, and it's not meant to. You don't need Corey Dennis. Like Aaron Noland, who's committed to Ohio State,
committed because of Corey Dennis,
is not committed to come play for Corey Dennis. He's committed to come play quarterback for Ryan Day. Tavian St. Clair in the class of 2025 is not committed to come play for Corey Dennis. You are going to,
because he's a Buckeye.
Corey Dennis is a great guy. Like I like Corey a lot, but if you're a quarterback around the country and you're asked, okay, are you going to play for? He was a walk-on wide receiver at Georgia Tech. Doesn't mean he can't be a good coach.
He was Calvin Johnson.
Doesn't mean he can't be a good coach. Doesn't mean he can't be a good quarterback's coach. Mm-hmm. But if you're walking into the situation, do you not want to play for a guy that's played football and played quarterback at Ohio State? Would that not be better?
It would help. Like, I mean, the position knowledge is easier gained when that's the position you played. I mean, it doesn't mean you need to be that guy, but I think it helps, and it helps for recruiting.
And the reason that Ryan Day promoted Corey Dennis 3 years ago is because Corey Dennis was going to teach the offense and teach the quarterback the way Ryan wanted. But it doesn't matter if you can, the old saying, those who can't do teach. Like, it doesn't mean what you're teaching is hitting the same way and resonating the same way. Like, it's
just hits diff.
It hits different, is what I'm saying. So, and if you're looking at a guy and he's telling you do this. And then your response as a young player is, "Did you?" Like that's harder to buy into.
I don't think James.
You know what my dad would have said on that? He'd say, "Listen, we can have a conversation about this, or you see Elf on the Shelf up there. I'm going to get the guy beside him called Belt on a Shelf, and you're going to do what you're told."
I'm not sure that Corey Dennis is big into corporal punishment.
Well, hit the weight room. And then when someone's willing to challenge your alpha status in the room, like Fick was our linebacker coach.
Do you think that JT
you had to really think twice.
JT or Kenny's going to have that problem?
Well, Kenny's pretty thin.
Do you think
Kenny needs a sandwich?
Kenny Guyton won over the Ohio State locker room in 2012?
Oh, he's the best. I love Kenny.
There were.
I'm not going to pick him for my Gangs of New York fight squad.
There was a large percentage of people in the locker room in 2012 who wanted Kenny Guyton to be the full-time quarterback.
Believe me,
Like,
you guys
that guy-
are driving a
Bob,
shizzle
who are
within
you
the team.
drafting for your Gangs of New York
I would
squad?
take JT. He's in
Okay,
that.
that's what I thought.
Cardale's getting pretty beefy now. He's got some girth to him.
Okay, that's 2. You want that whole room to come in and
We
start
going
coaching?
back? Probably
if you've done it ever.
Probably Mike Tomczak.
Jay-Z's coming into
is
the
this just
room.
only quarterbacks?
Let's go.
I mean, maybe
Tommy Tupa.
Mike Tomczak. Tomczak's a little
Tom's
crazy.
a little crazy.
He's
You don't know. He's a wild card, man.
He is a wild
He's a wild
Just line them up. Monday, Cardale is teaching. Tuesday's Jay-Z's
Yeah,
day.
I would love it.
Wednesday, Troy's coming in.
Yeah.
Terrell's coming in on Thursday to talk about running.
Is he allowed on?
The only way I would let him come in, Jay-Z teaches, is if he brought in guest speaker Terrence Downing with him
Oh, of course.
to talk about offensive football and really just
saw
life in
TJ over
general.
the weekend.
Professor Downing?
No, it's called a couple state championship
You up at
games.
the mat?
Yeah,
Okay.
he was up there, yeah.
They carry you out when they won.
No.
It's
It was
unfortunate.
exciting, though.
What was the celebration like?
It was pretty wild.
What does a guy from Orville know about Massillon football?
Massive.
Well, I did play there a couple years, Berm. It's probably before you
I
were into
recall.
recruiting. But
Incorrect.
No.
I told you, Burbs was Skilpin High School, dude. For
Incorrect.
years. Even
I
before he got
always
paid.
thought you looked like that one dude who stood on the corner up at Massillon.
Incorrect.
He keeps getting older.
I
but
was
they stay the
I was
same.
very, very excited when you committed to play football at Ohio State, Justin.
Okay,
Yeah, so was I.
we've got quarterbacks. We've got quarterbacks coach. You're looking at a couple Buckeyes. We've had a 1-for-1 swapperoo with the Leonidas, who just had a birthday, by the way.
Yesterday.
What a great
Yeah.
birthday
Happy birthday to
present
James.
for him. Jake Ballard also had a birthday. Fine
Birthday
Buckeye.
season. Riley Jeffers had a birthday yesterday.
There you go. Any other any moves specifically on the defensive side that you are prognosticating?
Well, I'm not going to predict them anymore because this has been the conversation.
Because you've been wrong every time.
I thought the information I reported was correct and accurate and then did not come to fruition.
So did Herb Street when he reported that Les Miles was going to take Michigan.
So I can't sit here and say that
Situations
that I was
change.
right.
Yeah.
I wasn't because it did not happen. It has been an ongoing conversation with the defensive line and Larry Johnson for multiple years. And so I'm just not going to predict it.
Does losing the defensive tackle out of Chicago impact that at all?
No, I mean you lose.
I think it should be part of
I mean,
it because the
it's part of the
recruiting issues
conversation.
are mounting.
It's part of the conversation, but it's also because of NIL and because of how obvious the reason is that this happens. I think it does, in some ways, take the responsibility off of the position coaches when they lose key guys. But I think it's also worth noting that, like position coaches like Brian Hartline, for example, haven't lost key guys in this age of NIL. So maybe
I heard a coach who does a really good job in spite of NFL's NIL say those guys that complain about that, those are for the inferior coaches and excuses they make.
I think that there are people who, and this is not exclusive to Larry Johnson in the Ohio State football building, there are coaches in that building who still believe that everything they've always done will continue to work because it's always worked. And it is clear, evidence-wise, that that's not the case. Things are changing, and you better be able to adapt. And that's not an individual problem necessarily. That's an entire culture problem at Ohio State. There is a belief that the way it's always been done is good enough. We will win games. We will be elite. And to this point, the evidence hasn't necessarily refuted that, but time is kind of
A flat circle.
ticking, is what I was going to say.
Oh.
The clock is
Both can be true.
The clock is running out on that concept. This is not 2014 anymore. This
Did
is
you
not,
say text Dabo Sweeney?
I'm not going to text episode. But this is not the same era. This is not Urban Meyer walking into a living room and saying, you're going to play football at Ohio State, and this is why, because I'm Urban Meyer and you're the best, and I'm the best, and it's going to be – that's
We'll
not
be the best together.
like that's not how it goes anymore. Like
Did he break all the signs
got
and stuff?
yeah,
when he walked in
excited,
there?
that's
yeah.
what Urban does. That's what Urban did. But that's not life anymore. Like life now
You ever
is,
heard a bunch of rings pounded on a table before?
Yeah.
That's right.
They sound like money because that's what matters. They sound like money.
Okay.
So when you lose key players like a top 10 ranked defensive tackle in the country, a top 10 overall player, it's because in his commitment graphic there's a giant pile of money. And
Are we certain that was cash in the back?
I mean, I've seen cash before.
That much?
No,
Look like a big pile. Look like a big pile.
it's not a secret as to what it's about. The days of relationships getting you through the rocky times of a coach-player relationship are over. Like it's not, and that's the same for the guys in the building now. It's not even just for recruiting. Like you have to recruit your players every single day. And that is absolutely backwards, I think, for the way that most coaches believe they should have to operate. This isn't what anyone signed up for. And I don't know how long it can last this way. Before you lose a lot of really good coaches and you are then instead seeing programs run by the third uncles that you've been trying to avoid getting into the building.
So it becomes college basketball.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think
But that's different. That's only 7 or 8 guys you got to pay. This is 85.
Yeah.
Like that's a different world. So the amount of money that is required to sustain that success is substantially different than basketball. And so you either have to do it the way that the SEC has always done it, where you just don't care about any rules and you just pay people however much you want, underneath the table, on top of the table, on the side of the table, give them the table, whatever.
I like that.
Like that's how they've always operated. So they're very, very comfortable doing that now in this era where it's permitted. And schools like Ohio State, who certainly have not been immune to breaking a law here or there prior to the Urban Meyer tenure.
Is that with a Y or an I?
Which one?
Prior.
I mean,
both.
Okay.
that's touche. You got to figure out what you want to do. And I don't know that Ohio State wants to go down that path.
What do you mean once?
They have
We're
to
getting
now.
really
We
close
need
to
get
big government
quarterbacks.
berm popping out here. We need some federal oversight.
Well, I mean, that's obvious.
Some
There
legislation.
has to be federal involvement in college football. Otherwise, what's the point?
What could go wrong getting federal government involved?
I think
From the
you're gonna
government,
see-
I'm
I
here
think
to
you're
help.
going to see NIL.
That's the best
How about
words you
that
could
guy
ever
they
hear.
just kicked out of they just kicked out of Congress? What's he up to? He could maybe take
George
over.
Santos? He's a
George Santos.
Actually,
He knows all about the money in this.
Actually, George Santos has already run NIL for 6 or 7 different programs. They said it right on his resume.
World-class volleyball.
The guy's a liar. That's why
Yes,
it's a joke.
he's a liar, yes.
Here's
I get
the
that.
thing. I think that we will see probably in January NIL legislation come down where schools can get involved directly into the NIL, and you will see some of the collectives lose steam and importance, which will be very important for Ohio State in the way that they want to operate. So we'll see if that passes in January, but that's –
What about the lawsuit? Where do you think that's going to play in Oregon?
I mean, is it a surprise?
It's
People
not a
are,
surprise.
we're not actually getting as much as the football players are. Really? Phil Knight's not handing you over
You
that money?
don't say.
strange.
That's absolutely crazy. I would have never suspected that.
Wow.
How much revenue is your women's basketball program bringing into your university?
It was like
Well-
rowing and something.
Well,
It wasn't-
probably
some
more than
so
tennis and golf.
Maybe.
I think they do have a pretty good women's basketball program.
not that good.
Still not making money.
Name me one player on the Oregon's women's basketball team. You
No,
can't do it.
I'm out. You got me. You stumped me.
Kudos to Kevin McGuff on a big win at
Hey,
Tennessee.
let's
Yeah.
go.
Smoked
Go
him, by the
Bucks.
way.
Let's go.
20 points.
What do you guys think of this matchup?
I
Let's
think
just
Chris
start.
Holtman's doing a great job. I agree.
I love. I think this is going to be a nice little game. I mean, here's the thing. This is what concerns you: is Missouri. You feel like is excited to be
This
there.
game means
100%.
This means a lot.
we're
This
gonna
is
get their
Missouri.
best
This
shot.
this is Purdue going to the Rose Bowl.
This is their chance to beat Ohio
I mean, I'm
State.
being real about that. And they've got Schaefer, is it Cody Schaefer, Corey? Their running back. I'm trying to think.
They got good players.
But he's a really
solid,
good running
yeah.
back.
The running
His-
back, the quarterback's really good.
His story is great. They're tough. They're physical. I watched them manhandle Georgia.
Luther Burden, maybe
People get
one of the 2 or 3 best
best
receivers in the
receivers.
country.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a game that means everything to them. It means nothing to Ohio State. It is going to be like when we've talked in the past about having scrimmages for the spring game.
Yeah.
That's what this is for Ohio State.
Yeah.
And you're going to see players playing. You're like, what in the is that guy on the field for? But
This guy, who the hell is Happy Gilmore?
so that's how you're going to. I mean, it's not even similar to the 2021 Rose Bowl because you're not going to have the quarterback out there.
Yeah.
You're not going to have. I mean,
The Legend of Zelda,
Yeah,
the Oscarina of Time, Link.
Lincoln Tunnel.
But it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a nice test for the defense, which, if reading the tea leaves, looks like that defense will be largely comprised as it was at the beginning of the year. And they're going to have to be able to stop the run.
Mm-hmm.
And so that'll
Do you
be a
think
nice.
Lathan will come back and play just to get a shot to have a final game?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I wonder, because obviously we don't expect, Denzel Burke. We would probably predict
I
he
would think
wouldn't
that
play.
he's probably young.
Tommy probably wouldn't play.
I don't know about that.
I mean, I don't know. Here's my thing: do you want him to play?
I think
it's important.
I think
for
you're
CJ
coming.
Hicks.
I think you're coming at it from a different place than would these guys want to play their last
Yeah,
game?
philosophically, Ohio State's going to have to make a
But
decision.
here's the thing: if Tommy doesn't play, and like
You
Steel
got
Chambers.
Cody. You got Cody.
I understand you have
CJ,
Cody.
Gabe,
Like, I don't know if some of those guys are prepared to play in a game like this.
Tommy wasn't
Against
prepared
an
to play in
SEC
the Rose Bowl in 2021
I understand that, but
till the second half when he was like, "Oh, I can actually play football at this level."
I don't know if unless because they will be unrelenting with the run. I've watched this Missouri team 2 or 3 times this year, pretty close.
38-minute game and we're on our way home. That's what
I'm just saying.
Praise Josh.
And I think if those guys want to play in that game,
Yeah.
they should have the ability to play.
I agree. I'm not saying they shouldn't play. I'm just saying Ohio State philosophically may have to make a decision as to what that game's going to be about.
I think that game, you owe it to the guys who, some of those guys chose to come back and play.
All right,
and
you've
do this.
targeted my heartstrings.
I'm
Damn
just
it, Bob.
telling. No, I'm just saying. You ask these guys to come back and play for another season. You can't just tell them in the final
We're
bowl
going
game.
to send it in on the last game.
Because not only have you
Yeah,
lost
thanks
to
for all your-
Michigan the last
Especially
3
after
years,
telling me you can't play in the
but-
Senior Bowl, in a senior game, senior
But
day
you-
game. I get it.
yeah, but you lost your bowl game last year, and it was
No,
a
it's
CFP
not.
game.
It's
Like,
not going to
dude-
be good on Ryan if they go and lose this game and just take this
Well,
as
that's
a.
the weird
Now he's
part.
going unless he plays that as a. We're going to see what we have for next year, guys. Don't worry about
I think
it.
no
We
matter
gotta
what
play.
you do, you're playing it that way.
I think you're playing that way, but I don't think people are still
Well,
going to accept the
no,
result
they're not
either
going
way.
to. Yes, you lost
Just
to
because
Missouri.
we're trying to feel it out. Yeah, this
If
is
it happens.
Missouri.
That
This
was.
isn't.
I remember that conversation happening when all the opt-outs came. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and I believe Haskell Garrett, and like going into that Rose Bowl, and everyone's like, "Well, who cares? Get ready for the future." And then you're down 21-7, and like, what the hell is going
What
on?
are they
here?
doing out here?
The Buckeyes are on the field. You got to be giving your all.
We got to be winning.
But you think about a guy like Haskell Garrett, right? Like you chose to not play in the Rose Bowl for some reason. Like these opt-outs are sort of dumb. I mean,
I kind of wish they would have played Georgia or Oregon.
I
Like,
100% wanted either of those.
Well, and I'm very puzzled as to how that did not happen
or
for the
Florida,
Cotton Bowl.
or even Florida State. That
They
would
did.
have been.
They could have picked.
well, they were.
They could have
Orange
picked
Bowl
5
was
other
locked
matchups.
in.
They couldn't get Florida State, and they didn't want to go to the Orange Bowl. They were glad that Georgia lost that game. But the Cotton Bowl and the selection committee could have picked 4 other matchups before getting to Missouri, and I don't.
You could have had Oregon, you could have had Oklahoma, could have had Ole Miss, and they picked.
Which is Oklahoma is another one that's surprising. Proximity wise, they
Down
would
the
travel down there, and it's 2 big brands.
Instead, it's Ohio State and Missouri, and it'll be one of the least interesting parts of December. But we will be looking forward to.
I don't
Berm's
know.
already excited to get down.
Well,
I just
one more
mean
Buckeyes game this year.
once it gets here on the 29th, there's going to be great interest, and
I'll
I'll
be
be
ready.
excited to watch it.
I love football.
But there's so much else going on around this program
The
right
good
now.
news is it's the 29th, so the players get to leave and spend Christmas in Dallas.
That is the
and
best
they
part
get
for them.
and they get to be home for New Year's.
Yeah.
So
Oh, get to get home and party.
We went down to Metro. Remember that?
It is the only one time I
That's
got
the
to
only
spend-
time we got to do.
So we played in the Alamo Bowl. We got to get back. It was a trade-off. We spent
spent Christmas in
You
a
got your
in a
New Year's
hotel.
back, but you
Yeah.
lost your Christmas.
if
Well,
you
we
guys
lost
if you guys
Christmas.
wouldn't have beaten Oklahoma State that game, oh my gosh, can you imagine how different your like next year would have been?
There was
That's
a
what
lot
I'm
of-
saying. You look at a game
There
like
was
this, right?
momentum.
Yeah, but we were pretty good at the end of that year.
Yeah, we smoked them.
We had grown up a lot.
But you
throughout
look at a
that
game
season.
like this, and people on the outside will say it doesn't matter.
It does.
But it does matter to win.
And I will say this: it matters even the win. And I think you can have some program momentum coming in. There's a little bit of that, and we'll get into that. How important is it to win these games? Can they carry over? I think there can be positivity from it within the program and the training and all that. But as far as individual player momentum, I think that is paramount. Yeah. Because if you go out there and you look at what Jackson, Smith and Jigba did,
And Marvin.
and Marvin, and like these guys, then all of a sudden you're like, well, we know what these guys are. We know if you're a defensive player and you play really well, okay, well, look at this guy. We can start to build things around what they do. And so I think that is critical for this game, especially if you're a guy going in there and you're a quarterback here and you haven't played at all.
Yeah.
Devin Brown's played some. What can he do? Lincoln Keynotes, like if you go in there and show him a lot of things, like, all right, I mean, I'm not saying that you say that he's the answer, but it makes you open your eyes a little more because just like Urban couldn't undo what he saw Dwayne Haskins do in the Michigan games, like you watch this guy do it in the game, it's not a projection from practice anymore.
And you look at it from those guys, like for the coaches, if you go out and see that, the next question, and to bring it back to the start of the show, like what you do at quarterback from there feels a whole lot different if you can leave that game with any confidence in what you have.
Yeah,
in
but
the building.
before that game, though, you're going to have to make a decision, aren't you? If you're trying to get one of these portal guys.
Not
You have a
necessarily.
month.
I mean, you not.
Not that other people can't
The
go
good
into the
news
portal
is that
later on.
the good
but,
news is that we play pretty early, so
well, yeah, that's true. We're going to be done
we
before
have
a lot.
a couple days after.
I think again that's what it comes back to me. Like, these high end guys, if that's what you're going to attack in the portal, they're not going to be in there forever.
Yeah,
they're going to.
Some of you're going to have to bring somebody in before a game, before bowl practice starts, and now you're going to have quarterbacks to go through bowl practice, other than Tristan Gebbia.
That's the question. Who can't throw because his arm has been falling off for.
He did actually throw before the Michigan game, which I hadn't seen him do in several weeks. So that's
Well,
that's
hey,
positive
there you go,
progress. So
yeah.
maybe there'll be one more quarterback
All right.
It'd be
that
great
can take some
to have
snaps.
a 25-year-old starting quarterback.
How bad could it be?
I mean,
You said we were looking to the future.
here we go.
Wait for the future.
Maybe he can get year number 8 in college football, but I doubt it. But that brings us back to eligibility isn't a real thing in college football anymore. You can take that as one of your big takeaways from the Horseshoe Lounge, the live show at Roosters. We appreciate you joining us, hanging out. That's Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. Hope you have a great week. We'll be right back in here next week with a different Appetizer Threes Day. Get your onion feathers this week, and we'll see you then.